A pastor told a story of how his wife was always locking him outside each time he goes to see off his friends or anybody that come to visit them. The wife would rush to lock the door. And the husband had asked her severally, "Why do you lock out the door whenever I go out?" And she would not say anything. So this day he went out. The wife locked the door. In order for him not to blow matters out of proportion, he decided to ask God for grace and wisdom on how to handle it. So one night, he had called the wife, he woke her up and asked her a question. "What is really the problem? Why do you always lock the door whenever I go out? What if somebody is pursuing me?" And she responded to the husband that if somebody is pursuing him, he will knock and she will open the door. But that she doesn't like the door being open, that she doesn't just feel comfortable staying in a house where the doors are always open. So the husband asked her question, "Please tell me about your upbringing. Can you tell me a little about your upbringing?" And to me, I feel that that's something they would have talked about while they were still in the courtship, level. Maybe because as a pastor, the woman didn't sleep in his house to see all of these whole things. Those were the remaining things he needed to see. Because in every marriage, there's something you need to still bring to the marriage that your husband does not know. If you're not somebody who is somebody who is open to discussing things, there are some surprises you still have to bring to the home. So that day, he had called the wife, the sat back, everybody had gone to bed. He asked the wife to tell him, about herself. The wife opened up and said, the reason she told the husband, that the pastor, that each time that she had step brothers, that each time the parents were not around, or maybe everybody was sleeping, they would try to break into their own apartment to sleep with them. And that went on and on. And so what they now did was they started sleeping with trousers. They'll sleep with trousers at night. They will now try to bolt the door where they used to break into. They will have to look for maybe a chair to block the door while they wear trousers to sleep. They couldn't talk because it wasn't their father who was the man of the house. It was the other man who was the father of the house, and the mother couldn't say anything. Rather, maybe they didn't tell their mother. So what I'm trying to say in essence is, this pastor understood that it could be a foundational issue. A lot of people are walking around traumatized. Some people have lost their self-esteem in the course of things like this. Some people have lost their marriage. They have lost the peace of their home because their husbands were not able to manage the problems they came with. You see, all the baggages people come with along marriage, if you are not careful, you will mar the relationship. So the best thing for you to do is to ask questions. Ask very important questions. Those questions are very difficult for some other people to ask. When you ask those kind of questions, it will help you to be able to know how to handle this issue. So the man of God began to understand that even while he's married, the wife was still traumatized. Something that started when she was small. So what he now did was, he told the wife that he was going to protect her, that she should not be afraid, that she would never. He was so immediately. The wife said, "Really?" You could see the countenance on her face, so the husband would truly protect her, even though she knew that the husband was going to protect her. She needed that reassurance, being that she had told the husband the story that makes her lock the door each time somebody leaves the house. She locks the door. So she was going through, it was a traumatic experience for her she was going through. So immediately she came back to her senses and began to dress. That he came back and discovered that the wife had dressed and wore a very short, a very micro bomb short, and wore a top that was really revealing. And he was like, really? That he has not seen his wife like this before. And then the next time he wanted to sleep, the wife went and bought this see-through nightwear and wore it. And she was already in her element. And the person was like, what? Is this his wife? That I couldn't believe it. That is what, talking about things does. Because our bodies, communication in marriage is what blood is to our body. Like without your blood, you cannot be alive. Without communication, a marriage relationship will die. So whatever it is that you are going through in life, talk about it. If it is an addiction, talk to someone who you know that is an expert in that field. Read books. Find out how people who had such experiences overcame them. Go on Google, ask questions, and you will see answers. Sometimes the answers may not be too accurate, but at least they will give you a lead to what you are trying to look for. So basically, this pastor tried his best to bring his wife out of that fear. So right now, the wife can do anything. She can jump. She can, she's free in the house. She can walk even naked when it is herself and the husband and there are no kids around. That it was not happening before. The wife will wear trousers to sleep. She will wear, but that is where some marriages are. A lot of marriages have gotten to the point where if God doesn't help them, it will break, except God says they will be in the boat together. So with what this pastor had said as a story, we also know of another pastor in Nigeria whose wife was always having anger issues. And because he understood that these anger issues could be manipulation, he decided to go to God through prayers. And when God was to arrest the wife, he arrested the wife so much that she even has an online prayer group. So whatever it is that you are going through, whatever you are passing through, always know that there is a Father in heaven that answers prayer. If these pastors had not handled their wives with wisdom, today they would have been divorced. I know there are some wives that you do everything, you nearly give your life for them, and they will say you didn't die well. So basically, let spouses be there for each other. Let them look out for each other, because this pastor's story was really touching, that he was suffering for something he didn't know about. He married the wife, but he didn't know that the wife came into the marriage with a lot of baggages. And even though she's now married to the man, she felt that somebody could still come in to want to rape her. It took her husband to understand this thing in the spirit, spoke to her physically, and then decided to promise and reassure her that he's going to protect her. So that alone made it, so sweet, and she could trust her husband. So right now she could dress in front of her husband. This is something she never did before. She could, stand before the man, her husband, and rub her cream. She can wear her, see-through nightgown and not be ashamed before her husband. It wasn't like that before. And the other pastor who talked about his wife having serious anger issues, today she's a better person. Today, because her husband listened, her husband paid attention to details, her husband decided to help her. And look at it today. They are both helped by the Lord, doing their different businesses. So the bottom line in all of this is, whatever you find yourself doing, do it well. If you have been abused in the past, seek counseling. If you think that seeking counseling is going to make people talk about you, then find somebody you trust that you know will not divulge such information, and be there. Do the right thing always, and you will see God coming through for you. If these pastors did not sit back to ask God for wisdom, they would have destroyed their marriage. Today, they wouldn't have had marriages to call theirs. So as much as we are trying to see how we can make ends meet in the society, we should be able to stand out as individuals representing our different families. Because without the representation of our families, we cannot stand on our own. So whatever happens, ensure that you find out from your wife or your husband, how can I help you? Because sometimes you are helping people the wrong way. How can I help you? When you ask a man or a woman, that is why I say it's not gender-based. If you ask your husband, how can I help you? He will tell you the right way to help him. If you ask your wife, how can I help you? She will tell you the right way to help her. And that brings me to speaking one's love language. You cannot be speaking a different love language. You will not be communicating. So it is very important to pay attention.